Hey, how's it going, network team? This is Brandon again with Seven Eagle for our Pay It Forward podcast, and we have the distinct honor to have Ben with us today. He is a Navy veteran and now talent acquisition manager at American Public Media Group. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Brandon. Pleasure to be here.
No worries. Pleasure's all mine. So, we normally kick these things off. We give a lot of information out there to our veteran community and with people who have served and are now out of service and doing great things out of service. So that's the point of what our mission is today. And to kick things off, I would definitely like to ask you, so what kicked off your military career? How did that begin?
My military career, I suppose it's not too different than many people, but I found myself graduating from high school, didn't really want to go to college. My job prospects were things like washing dishes or cleaning bathrooms. And I thought, I could do something better than that. And I guess, my folks gave me kind of some reality checks, and I decided the military was probably the way for me to go. Of course, I joined the Navy to see the world, and I ended up being stationed in my hometown and shipped all over the United States. But I ended up as a Navy Seabee sort of by accident. I didn't even mean to get into the construction battalion, but I thought I was going to be on a ship sailing around the world. It turns out I was stateside doing all the work here. So it was fun. It was a great experience. But, it was just sort of a point in my life, I guess, when I was young and didn't know where I wanted to go and didn't know what I wanted yet out of life. And it seemed like a really good option.
I understand that completely. I think my story is very similar to yours. It's the first route out of where I am from, originally from Alabama. I just said, okay, security forces and the Air Force, and they had me out to boot camp in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. A very similar story. So while you're in service, was there anything that you took away from it that you think highlighted or made you who you are now today?
Oh, for sure. There's no question. The person I was before boot camp and the person I was after boot camp are two pretty different people. And I think a lot of kids go through that kind of transfer. I'll say kids now. I'm an older guy now, so I can say kids. But I think a lot of young people go into the military service, and doesn't matter what branch you're in, right? There's a certain amount of coming of age that happens. And so I feel like, I definitely took some experiences from the military. I still tell some hilarious stories about some of the shenanigans that go on. And there's always camaraderie when you meet other people who served, and especially who served in there's a brotherhood there, right? And does that make sense? So, so there's definitely things that I take away that were both instrumental in shaping who I am in terms of, how I approach things. I have the way that I take care of my business. Mostly from the training that I got in terms of, like, I know it doesn't make sense at the time. Like, why do I have to my clothes like this? This is stupid. But it's not, right? At the end of the day, like, I still make my bed most days. I still make sure my lawn is trim and clean. I haven't gotten a haircut in a while, so that's shame on me. But but for the most part, I try to keep things in order because that was kind of like, hey, that makes sense, right? And it works. And so those kinds of things I definitely take away from a job perspective, right? I was fortunate enough to be my rate was a builder. So I got to learn how to do things like pour concrete and build block walls and some basics around, some big I'll keep going. It seems like, those skills that I gained in the military, they help me every day as a homeowner. Like if I've got a project at home and I need to know how to do some stuff, sometimes I do it myself. I've remodeled a lot of bathrooms, a lot of kitchens. I've done projects that most people would be afraid of. But I know my limitations. I know when it's time to call a pro and have someone come in and take care of, like, hey, the gas is leaking. I need a plumber. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain limitation to what I'm willing to do and how far I'm willing to go. And then from like my current career, in terms of being in talent acquisition, being a recruiter, and helping to put people with a certain set of skills into the right job and make sure that their values are aligned with the job that they're applying.
You're still, hey man, you're still on with me? It's just been a little bit choppy. I think the internet's choppy just a tad bit.
There we go. Are you there?
Loud and clear. I can hear you.
Okay, fabulous. I'm sorry about the internet connection. I don't know what's going on there, if it's me or you, but I don't know. But I've got a strong signal on my side, so I don't know. Anyway, we'll just see what happens. But definitely that sense of how to communicate through a chain of command, how to solve complicated problems with other people, right? Like you can't solve everything yourself. Sometimes you need other people to help you get there. I think those kinds of skills, I take all of that away and I use them all the time. I know how to talk to C-level executives the same as I know how to talk to the receptionist. And there's a skill in when you are walking across a base and, an admiral happens to pop out from behind a corner. Like you have to know how to address an admiral, right? You kind of have to know how, right? And there's an expectation about how you stand and how you address that person and how you speak to them. It's different than how you might speak to, a second-class petty officer, that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's the same in real life. It's the same in the business world, right? The CEO is like, okay, you got to address them differently than you do the person in the mailroom. Not any kind of different in respect, but just a different communication style or a different approach, understanding different people's motivations, right? What's important to you? How can I help you get from here to there? How can you help me get from here to there? All those kinds of things. I took a lot of that out of the military.
Ben, you dropped so many nuggets just in this segment alone. I'll tell you, communication is very vital. And, another big takeaway too, I got from you, doing that, achieving that one task or that small task per day can kind of prepare you too as well for everything else you have throughout your day, whether it be making the bed piece or washing the dishes, just accomplishing something can set you up for more accomplishments in the future. So I want to tag back on, your time in service. So when you're getting ready to go through your process for separation, is that something that you preemptively knew, hey, I'm going to transition out of service sooner? Did you have thoughts of doing it the 20-year mark, or, how did that process go for you when you were transitioning out?
All right, I'm back. I'm back. So the question was around separation. I don't know how much anybody got there. So for me, like when I signed up and when I got, was like looking at career opportunities, I thought, okay, 40, I'm going to do the 20 years. I'm definitely going to retire. I'm going to make this into a thing. And I remember thinking about, man, I'm going to be like 39 years old, retired. Man, that sounds good, right? And I was feeling good about that. But then I joined and they sent me off to boot camp and I met my very first drill instructor and I was like, that's it, I'm getting out. So yeah, like I knew pretty early on that, I still like to buck authority. I'm not real good at following checklist instructions, Yeah, and sometimes like I'm the kind of person that like if we're doing something and I can come up with a better way of doing it so that it makes it a little more efficient, a little bit faster, a little bit less work for everybody, I want to do that. But the military is not the kind of place where you get to do that, right? It's like, this is how we do it and that's it. And depending on who's in charge in that moment will depend on how much flexibility you have. And so you almost get to a point where it's like, okay, you want every one of us to lug these 50-pound bags from here to there instead of setting up like a hand assembly line thing. That's fine. That's what you want us to do, And I feel like there's a lot of those kinds of things that the military just handcuffs you, right? So for me, my personality was like, I needed the discipline. I needed to be put into, like, I needed guardrails put up when I was at that age. But once I understood sort of what that pathway looks like, I felt like, okay, I can keep these guardrails up for myself. I can keep myself out of trouble. I can keep myself, on a path towards goals, and I can achieve things, right? So I knew that when my time was up, it was up, right? And that was fine. And I went on to college. I went to the University of New Mexico. I served in the reserves while I did that, so it was a transition for me. And so I set out a plan to get out in that way, I guess.
And that's a very good point. And what you stated is what a lot of people, everybody who separates or retires need to do is set up that plan in place so that you're good once that transition happens. And so, you said you went to college after you finished your service. Was that your goal? Did you jump into the workforce at all when you transitioned out, or just full time?
Oh man. So yeah, I did all kinds of jobs again, right? So I think like a lot of people, you come out of the military and we tend to, maybe people like me who do one, I did 5 years and then 2 in the reserves, right? So it was like in and out kind of experience. I was still pretty young when I got out. And I think that the military service at that time in my life kind of defined who I was, right? It was sort of, like I still didn't know who I was. I just knew that was a very influential part of my young adult, right? And so I was still in discovery, trying to figure out, what do I want?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I went. Right.
Right.
I didn't know that I didn't have a problem to something on something. I was getting good. Good at following rules.
Very true.
Blind journal.